out what's going on. So, and I'll share a couple of those items in a moment. But today we have, uh, thank you, John, or thank you, Fran. Yeah, I learned my lesson last week, 2 weeks ago. So today we have Jabra on. We have how voice AI will redefine work in 2025 and beyond. It was originally entitled that Beyond the Keyboard. So, interestingly, it's, are we going to be typing or are we going to be dictating or how does AI kind of play back into that whole thing? So we've got Paul on from, Sefton. Is that how you pronounce it there, Paul?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Steve.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And Paul's been on before. He had some great topics for me, and I kind of used this one because I thought it had the most impact for all of us. So thank you, Paul, in advance for being on today. So real quick, yeah, I got this. Okay. Thank you. Oh, here we are. So polls. Hold on. So I got, if this comes up. Okay. So. I have, you know what? I had a polling question number one, but it was so simple. I'm just going to go to number two. So here, what percentage of your written work is dictation? So meaning when you're on the PC, when you're on the laptop, is it 0 to 25, 25 to 50, 51 to 75, over 76%? And Vern and Paul, I think this could be very timely in terms of the results.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've heard it from me before, but the market for AI is moving so quickly that, to quote our colleagues over at Cognigy, it is moving along in cat years, which
Yes.
means 24 years and 24 months. And it's exactly how I'm seeing it. Hi, Steve O'Neill. Good to see you. And there are two Vern Fernandez. How is that possible? I don't know.
So I'll use my registration link. So
I know. I'm just
his
kidding.
real name's really Paul.
All
Oh,
right.
I
So
hadn't even
thank.
noticed that. Yeah, not me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So as soon as I get the share button, I will get that. Here we go. And as everybody can see here, if the share button will work, that most of us, okay, literally 76% of us are at the 0 to 25. So I can't see everybody's hands, but it'd be interesting in the chat. Maybe you can raise your hand if you're at 0 today. I would, get a sense of, I should have gone a little bit more defined on here, or refined, I should say. But yeah, so the vast majority of us are doing 0 to 25, and then of course followed by 26 to 50. And actually, one of us did 51 to 75. Who was the one who did over 76? Who was that? Anybody want to volunteer? Okay. And the second question is same thing, but on your cell phone. So
Steve,
what
that was
pers-
Jody Castillo.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jody. So what percentage of your work on the cell phone is either email, or text, SMS, email, whatever, is now dictation? I'm finding that I use it a lot. And by the way, if you have trouble using dictation in Microsoft 365, because I find it very slow, at least on my machine, there is, I think it's called, there's a shortcut, the Windows key plus H, and there's an embedded dictation function within Windows itself that is much faster, I found. So very interesting. Okay, well, thanks everybody for voting. Appreciate that. This voting is a bit different here. Let me end the poll. Let me get the results here to you, and I will share the results. And as you can see here, um, most are again at the 0 to 25 mark, and uh, this is interesting. I thought this was going to be a lot higher. This actually is turning out to be lower than the keyboard. That's very interesting. And then 26 to 50, but nobody volunteered or, offered 51 to 75 or 76 above. So very interesting. Well, thanks everybody for sharing there. Let me continue here. And so a big thank you for 2 weeks ago with Eric Kraft from Informa and Enterprise Connect. We had a great chat about just the future of where things are going. Again, a lot of it was around AI, a lot of it was around CX. I don't know if anybody is aware, but they're making some changes. We're in Las Vegas this year. It has gone from 3.5 days down to 3 days. But it's a full 3 days or almost a full 3 days. I know myself will be speaking, and I know Scott on the call will be speaking, and I know several of us will be speaking at the event. We also have an SCTC booth there. And there is a gentleman, Justin Robbins. He will now be the MC, if you will, for the show this year. So, very lively individual, a big CX person, and glad to have him aboard. So, as we continue, a quick famous quote: "There is no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home." Does anybody? It's a very, very famous quote. Does anybody remember who that was?
Probably Job.
Probably Joe.
I think it's
Okay.
Steve Jobs. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No, but thanks for smiling there, Vernon Paul. I saw that. So it was Ken Olsen from DEC, believe it or not, back in 1977. There will never be a computer in home. Yeah, right. So I like that one. Fran, over to you for happy hour.
We are having happy hour tomorrow. We have it every other week. So now that we have these fireside chats every other week, we're having them all the time. But
Yeah.
we miss some of our regulars. We always learn something. 2 weeks ago was so informative. Yeah, you need to join us. We did some of the cards that you gave us, Steve, from before, which was kind of
Yeah, yeah.
fun. And oh my gosh, we have just a wealth of knowledge on it. So feel free to join us, bring a beverage, and hang out.
And
But
is it true, just like
do we
Vegas?
have to go back in time?
You have to go back in time. We're at 2026, John. It's okay.
Sorry, Fran.
Yeah,
Thanks. Sorry for interrupting, but weren't we going to do the alumni lessons learned kind of thing? Is that this Thursday?
We can do that as well. Sure.
Okay. Did you want to say about that? Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about it last time, and there's a whole lot of benefit from the knowledge that we have in the organization, all of the experience that we've had, and so we want to kind of pay that forward. And so if you want to join and share your thoughts on your experience and best practices, please, it'll be kind of a top of mind for this week.
Fantastic. Thank you, Fran.
Thanks.
And of course, everybody knows or saw this 2 weeks ago, Tracy Venters is now officially part of the SCTC. Fran is handing the reins over to Tracy. So again, welcome, Tracy, and glad to have you. Woohoo! As we would say, right? There you go, Fran.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and so Tracy literally has started about a little over a week ago, and she's having she and Fran are having regular conversations for transition, and Tracy is going to get very involved, and we're very excited to have Tracy on. So thank you, Tracy. So Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Steve, and you stole a little bit of my thunder. If there are any SCTC consultants that are attending Enterprise Connect this year, we'd love to know who you are. Even if you're a non-member and you're attending, let us know. Steve said we're going to have a booth, so we want to try to arrange some time for everyone to get by the booth and meet and greet each other. Even if you're a non-member of the SCTC, we'd love to meet and greet with you. But as Steve said, this year it's kind of a juggling act, as HIMSS and the Enterprise Connect are at the exact same time across the street from each other. So we want to make sure that we all, as consultants and vendors, maximize our time with you as industry experts and consultants. So with that, back over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. So yeah, here's me. I should have put this up, but I actually developed an avatar of myself. Beth English and I are doing a talk together, and she asked me to do an avatar. So yeah, I put one into ChatGPT. It came out pretty good. So it looks kind of like this. But anyway, there's actually more wrinkles in it, which I didn't like, but that's okay. So, but anyway, just a couple of things. We have a very, very strong board this year. We've already done some things to get started. Again, Tracy has been onboarded. We've got a regular cadence for our board meetings once a month. We have some very committed people. Everybody is starting to form their own committees. We are very, very big on growing the organization this year. We really I believe that 2026 is the year of independent consultants. I think in fact, I'll let Ben Treadway take the microphone for a quick second here. But Ben is seeing less and less value from the vendor side with agents these days. So Ben, can you comment on that real quick?
Yeah, Steve and I were having a conversation the other day about agents.
And we're seeing, agents trying to be consultants, trying to play both sides of the fence. And as we educate the end users aren't happy with that whatsoever. So we're seeing a lot of people not thinking that's the best way to go. So I think as the consultants and the vendors educate the end users, I think we'll start seeing that go away, because most of the vendors or the manufacturers are finding it's much more advantageous for them to have wholesalers or partners instead of agents. So I think the market is changing dramatically.
So I think that again, that'll play to all of us here as part of the SCTC. And I think everybody knows at least 1 to 3 people, either consultants or potential VAC members. And we are asking everybody to please, again, Tracy's going to be the funnel here, but we're asking everybody this year to please invite at least 1 to 3 people into the fold. We really believe that's the easiest way, and most, and the fastest way, to grow the organization. We will be meeting people, of course, at Enterprise Connect, but we find that if somebody is personally invited, it just makes everything so much easier and better. And again, Tracy will be, of course, a part of that, and of course, the membership committee. So with that, a couple of quick things. Number one is Mike Smith is, of course, past president and most immediate past president. And we are starting up the Past Presidents Council again, which is basically a group of individuals, past presidents, who will lend their knowledge and have occasional meetings with the president and the board and provide insights on their own experience. So, Mike, welcome aboard as the president of the PPC. Mike Smith.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. I look forward to it. So thanks.
All right.
Thanks very much.
You bet. And we are starting up a newsletter again. It's not going to be SCTC lines the way we had it. It's going to be a little bit more concise, if you will, because there was a lot of content in the old one. It took a lot of work. We're asking Mike Peck to head that up, and we're encouraging all of our VAC members to submit an article, and we will help publish that through to the membership. So again, if you're looking for exposure as a VAC member, not only will you get Fireside Chats this year, you'll get, first dibs on that, of course, but we also want to get you, we want to raise your level of exposure to the membership by helping to write articles too. So Mike Peck is in charge of that. We have Chuck Vondra, who is in charge of recruitment this year, and we are starting a program. Actually, we're just moving it. Anybody that's been to a conference, if you've been a freshman, you've been a red dot. So we said this year, why don't we take the red dots that are part of our conference and move that to membership in general. So we're going to give introductory courses and training, so to speak, for your membership benefits when you first get onboarded as a new member. We are encouraging everybody to join the Dallas conference this year. There's going to be some really exciting stuff going on there. But yeah, we're just raising the bar with, mentoring, with videos and having some regular sponsors, et cetera. And then lastly, we have 30 years ago when I was president last time, we started an internet committee because it was just starting back then. Now we have something called AI. So we now have a new AI committee, which will be, is headed up by Brendan O'Brien. And Brendan, of course, is EVP now of the SCTC. And there'll be a whole bunch of stuff coming out from the AI committee. So we had a great board meeting last Friday. Everybody has outlined their goals for the year. They're already contacting Tracy to set up their monthly meetings within their committees. A lot of activity. So if any of us here are not on the board and would like to be a part of any one of the committees, please contact Tracy. And Tracy, maybe you can put your contact info into the chat here. But yeah, we're all about that. So with that, I'm going to give the screen and the share over to Paul here. And Paul, we're looking forward to your talk here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. It's great to be back with the SCTC group. Not for a Friday bar, unfortunately, but I'll take the midweek slot that I can get and hopefully provide some entertainment, even if it's not as good as the revered Friday bars. So I think last time I joined this group, I was talking about a slightly offbeat topic, which was well-being in the age of AI. And it was really looking at sort of how do people respond when we try to force them through such a massive change. And it made me chuckle, Steve, when you started off with that quote for today around no one will ever need a personal computer. I think we might have said the same thing about AI a little while ago.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw recently as well, which made me laugh, was people wouldn't really know what to do with, like, if you gave everybody electricity before we had all of the uses for electricity, you could have said, do you want 10 times more free electricity? And everyone would have kind of gone, well, I don't really know what to do with it. So no, I'm
Mm.
good. Like I'll stick with what I have. And I feel like AI is kind of in a similar space right now. But essentially, off the back of the topic that I was last discussing in this forum on well-being with AI, I'm discussing today something again that's more general and broad and people focused, and that's how we interact with AI, as was sort of hinted at by the title of today's talk, as well as the poll that was sent out. And I find myself with a bit of a problem these days because my partner will walk into the room and go, "Who are you talking to?" And I go, oh, just ChatGPT. Or at least with Claude, you get someone who sounds like they could be human. With ChatGPT, there really are no excuses. And whether it's Gemini, Claude, our own AI agents that we have within Jabra, or any of the models that are out there at the moment, I find myself talking more than typing. And I think it's this big behavior shift and signal for how much we might use AI in the future that I wanted to
Mhm.
talk about today, and that we essentially have spent quite a bit of time studying in the past 12 months. The other tricky thing, like you said about AI, is it's a bit like drinking from a fire hose, in that it's changing so rapidly that keeping up from a research perspective is quite tricky because you do something 1 month and the next month it could be outdated. But hopefully, because this is more of a long-term behavioral trend that we're looking at and trying to study, the data will remain a lot more evergreen. So I'm going to start off just by talking about sort of why. Why are we talking today about talking to AI instead of typing with it? And I think we've seen in the last 12 months one really predominant sentiment from every tech leader, whether that's Microsoft's CEO, their CEO of their AI subdivision, or any of the large tech companies out there. It's that talking to AI will transform the way that we work. And if we think back to when someone like Bill Gates first introduced the computer mouse on stage as a way to interact with a PC. It was quite a foreign concept. He had to explain what it was like. And with that in mind, I sort of looked at the computing setup I have today with monitors, a keyboard, and a mouse. And I said, oh, this is far less natural than it is to just converse with someone. As people, we're tuned into just talking to one another. And so voice really is the most natural way of interacting as humans, but we've just never done it to this level when it comes to interacting with our PCs. So for us, the question that we faced in the second half of last year was, this is not an if, it's a when, and how fast. And the first thing we started to look at is what's the rise of Gen AI been like over the last few years? And this shouldn't come as sort of news to anybody on this call. I'm sure it's something you're all very familiar with, but hopefully the where it's going then uncovers a little bit more around why we're talking about voice in this context. So the overarching trend with this timeline, if you will, is the intelligence that's only growing. And I think at first we were kind of prompting something and we were asking for very simple things. I met up with a colleague at a conference 2 weeks ago, and she said she'd been using AI to create photos to send to her children of her in private jets. And I thought that's a great sort of entry-level use case for what the technology can do these days. But as we sort of move towards agentic AI, and we go from generative AI a few years ago to contextual AI, which gets maybe more embedded, more specialized models, and more specific workflows where it can carry out multiple tasks. You'll then get more accuracy with that. We're expecting that to then lead into more of this chain reasoning, perhaps entire chunks of workflows being taken off of our plates and put into a more augmented state with AI. You get this automation of multi-step processes. And then I think you'll get into this agentic state where you essentially have the intelligence of a colleague rather than a tool. And this is something which is across all of the apps and devices that we're using. And I think at that stage, when you start to look at it as no longer being a tool, but more of a teammate, It's where voice is obviously this natural bridge. Why? Well, it's seamless, it's natural, and it's completely ambient. I think these days, if I look at the amount of time I'm spending stuck in Teams messages, in writing emails, in jumping into meetings, uh, there's a lot of time trying to catch up on messaging. And it's much easier just to talk instead of typing. And so I think we're going to see this evolution of we clicked, we typed, now we talk. And so what we did was we paired up with the London School of Economics, and we paired up with them because they've got one of the strongest behavioral labs where we can study these types of things in a controlled environment of any of the universities in the world. And the reason that we wanted to study it in a lab is because we wanted to get reactions that people didn't necessarily know they had. The example I can give is if we sent out a survey to 10,000 or 50,000 knowledge workers and we said, do you want the following types of features from AI? It would be a little bit like having asked people at the height of BlackBerry, would you want a touchscreen? The answer would probably have been no. And so it's a little bit similar from that perspective when it comes to studying. Sorry, I'm just minimizing Zoom for a second. When it comes to studying something like AI, people don't know what they want from the future. So we went to the LSE Behavioral Lab and we said, how is speaking to AI impacting behavior? What are the tasks that are best suited to spoken prompts? When is speaking to AI likely to become the norm? And what steps should businesses really be taking now to prepare for this future? You can see here we worked with Michael Muthakrishna. He's a professor at NYU as well as LSE, so he's got a solid reputation both on US soil and in Europe, which is great for us. And the overwhelming conclusion that we walked away with, and this is sort of our headline statistic, is that within 3 years, and this is conducted at the end of 2025, so we're talking about by 2028, voice will be the primary mode of interaction with all of our AI.
Wow.
And that's quite a short timeline. We're not talking about 5 or 10 years. We're talking about 3 years. And I think all of the data that we've seen from other organizations and studies since we conducted this at the end of last year has only added more momentum to this claim. And the reason for it, where you say, okay, well, why 3 years, is based off of technology adoption curves. So if you're studying any great technology adoption, whether it's Netflix and streaming services like Spotify, whether it's adoption of smartphones, adoptions of different tech hardware or software over the last 30 to 50 years, there's one predominant model that always comes true. And it shows that when you're at around 13.5% is where the tipping point is, or where you start to pivot. And again, this is from every mainstream innovation we've seen in the last 20 to 30 years with technology. And what we saw from our research in this behavioral lab was that 14% of participants were preferring voice over text input, having gone through multiple scenarios of using voice, text, and a combination or hybrid of voice and text for a huge range of tasks that simulated the types of work you and I would do in a day-to-day work environment. And they all said that, well, not all of them, but 14% said that they wanted to use voice as their preference today. And what this signals is that then within the next 3 years, we'll get into this early and late majority. And by that stage, you will have most people who will say that their primary preference for interacting with AI as a technology is by speaking to it. And you could say, well, hang on, Paul, that doesn't really make sense. Give me something else that would make me understand this better. And the interesting thing behind this model that has been proven time and time again is that for this to work, it takes 3 key ingredients. The first one is there a perceived advantage? So does this technology or mode of interaction, in this case, like using voice to interact with AI, does it feel genuinely helpful? Then the other piece is it compatible with how I already work? And I think we're seeing more and more pieces of software and services that we use already coming out with further AI-enabled features. And so this compatibility piece is already being massively accelerated by all of the existing vendors who we're working with or using with the AI integrations that they're making into their software. And then the last piece we're seeing is, can I see others using it successfully? So do I see other people using AI and having a benefit from it? And do I also see people using AI with voice interaction and having a benefit from it? And we're convinced that all of these three criteria are met when it comes to using voice as your primary mode of interaction with AI. So I think just to show what our lead researcher on this said, he said the data is consistent with CEO and technology leader predictions of a shift toward conversational computing. And this isn't just talking within a Microsoft 365 environment or within an individual software. This is where you no longer use your keyboard on your mouse, and it becomes a bit like a tablet, where maybe when iPads and tablets first came out, you didn't necessarily need the keyboard as an accessory, but it was something you could get as a bolt-on. I think that's where computers could go in the future with this type of technology, where with the right tools like a headset and then whatever screen or interface, smartphone or tablet that you have, you no longer have the need for a keyboard. And talking and listening are augmenting or even replacing typing and reading. So the question we then wanted to ask is, if these implications are clear, then what does that look like tomorrow? And we tried to map this out a little bit, and we did this both with some of the smart folks at LSE, as well as some of the people across our advanced science division at GN working in the R&D department. And the thinking right now is around having one AI chief of staff. And within that, you might have someone directing multiple agents or AI agents that you're using. One could be for your financial modeling. One could be for your restaurant bookings and personal life planning or calendar scheduling. The other could be around different teams that you're on, maybe if you're working with different stakeholders day to day or week to week. But essentially, regardless of what industry you're in, what vertical you're working in, what department or company size you're in, we know that the future isn't this one size fits all. And so we expect every individual to have this AI team of specialists who are coordinated by one interface or one lead agent or chief of staff who knows you best. That will then route all tasks, whether it's pulling in legal, creative, data science, or any other needs that you might have specific to your role or personal life. And so if you look at that and you think about then what the mode of interaction we use is, we started to go, well, how will work change as this type of thing evolves? And if we look at sort of the left-hand side of this, I think it's probably where we're at right now. And also probably adds up with the polling that you took at the start of this, Steve, from the perspective of we're at this stage of being at a human with an assistant. So at the moment, I'm getting some value day to day because AI is assisting me and making my work a little better and a little faster. This is probably mostly at the office, but the bottom line is it's 100% human initiated. There is no point right now, at least for me in my day, it might be different for some of the folks on this call, where I'm getting prompted a lot by AI. The best case scenario that I get is where I can get notified when a certain bigger task is complete, and then I have to go back and give the next instruction. I haven't at least gotten to the point where my workflows are being augmented. But we're seeing in the next 12 to 18 months, and companies like Microsoft, I think, are heavily investing in this environment of human agent teams where AI agents can take on specific tasks under human direction. But the shift that we think we'll see with this is then when you suddenly have 80% of it being human initiated and 20% of it being agent initiated. So you might then go from a scenario where 70% of the time you're still talking to other people, but actually 30% of your workday is spent talking to AI or the agents that you have on your team. And then if we sort of take a slightly more back to the future scenario and look at what 5+ years from now might look like, we could end up with these human-led agent-operated teams. And I actually just got off of a call before this with a psychologist out of Boston who's doing a lot of research on things like AI and loneliness to try and better understand, well, if my teammates are all virtual, they might always be ready to listen to me, but what happens to my loneliness or my engagement, or what Friday bars do I join if most of the people I'm working with to get my actual work done day to day are AI agents? But the scenario, I think, is where we see this full pivot, where all of a sudden we'll go from 20% of the correspondence with AI being human initiated and 80% of it being agent initiated. And obviously, the more that AI becomes embedded across all of our workflows and can access information that it needs to carry out these tasks, which is a completely separate topic from a privacy and security point of view. But when AI can grow in intelligence, it'll be able to prompt me far more. And so every day I might get a rundown of my meeting summaries, which Copilot is doing for me already. But throughout the day, I would expect to be prompted by an agent asking me if I want it to carry out new tasks, to follow up on certain things, to reply to an email that I might have missed, to set up a meeting or take a next step in a roadmap on a project, or whatever my workday might look like. And so I think this is sort of the future 5-year outlook of how teams could change when voice becomes the primary interface and AI grows in intelligence. And in doing so, our usage and adoption of it as a tool becomes ubiquitous across all of the tools and platforms we're using. So with that, the research started to show that if voice is the natural bridge to the future of work, what other factors do we start to see? And why is this important now? Interestingly, we saw factors like trust rising by up to 33% when people are using voice to interact with AI rather than typing. And there's a lot of study going on right now around the anthropomorphism, big word to pronounce at least for me, around the more and more we're talking about agents like people, how does that affect things like trust? And it obviously calls for further critical thinking and skepticism. The AI slop that we're seeing these days is certainly massive in terms of the number of pieces of content that are coming out and that some people just trust. So I think there are definitely positives if you're looking at things like user adoption. The more people trust the service or the AI that they're using, the more they will likely start to use it. But there's also obviously some risks that come with this. So for us, it's really about knowing that these challenges, while they don't undermine the potential, this adoption of voice AI certainly won't be seamless. So understanding where voice AI wins is going to be critical if businesses are going to succeed in the future of work. And I think participants, as I've said, have sort of described this future where AI is embedded throughout their day. It's seamlessly shifting between voice and text depending on the type of task that they're doing. And for us, we're starting to see from this first study that we've done that typing will remain useful for things like scanning, refining, and editing, especially where something like privacy is important, but voice will dominate where moments demand speed, creativity, or increased cognitive flow. And what we saw from this initial research was that, yes, there are still some challenges. So there are some tasks that people carried out with voice where they actually perform 20% lower in the outcome of the task than when they were typing. So we're certainly not saying that right now voice is the leading way to interact with all AI, but more that this is definitely coming in the next 3 years, and it's something that with this shift, we need to start to figure out where it wins and where it excels and where there is room for improvement. So we worked with LSE.
So Paul, sorry to interrupt. Kevin has a question. Kevin? Or I can read it if you're on mute there, Kevin.
Oh, I've got the question. I'm glad you asked. And I was on a
well,
busy
but let's read the
for
question for everybody. So how do you see voice interaction working in an office environment? Do you see more group voice interactions?
Yeah. So we've got this framework that we developed specifically to resolve this or try and tackle it. And I know for myself firsthand, when I'm at home like today and working from home, I'm using AI and talking most of the day to my laptop. When I go into the office, I all of a sudden stop. And yesterday I was trying to send out a whole range of emails and I was using voice to input. And I suddenly realized that I was conscious of what my colleagues were thinking about what I was saying or the changes I was making, or if the email I was about to send was personal or private or something that wasn't. So I think to answer the question, part of this comes down to normalizing the behavior. So sort of this quadrant, which we've identified with LSE, the first piece is equipping people and spaces with the right technology. The second is addressing these privacy concerns head on and making sure that there's a lot of transparency as organizations roll out any AI whatsoever, but particularly voice-enabled AI. We saw that employees who responded or interacted with AI from a voice perspective had greater concerns over their privacy. So you could type in the identical prompt in a text box or say it out loud, and there was much more concern from employees about the privacy or security of the voice data when you set out the same instruction out loud compared to when you typed it. But I think to answer the question, it's really around normalizing this behavior. And we've been working a lot right now at Jabra with Whisper. So Whisper is a startup out of the Bay Area that some people on the call may or may not have heard of. But essentially, they are working with AI to enable some of the most accurate speech to text transcription that is on the market today. And I will be on a train sometimes on my mobile using Whisper, and you can literally do it out of Whisper in a public environment. And if you've got a headset that can pick up with a good microphone or boom arm or an Evolve 3 like I'm using, not to do a product plug at all, but something with really good speech pickup, then you can literally operate at a Whisper and it will pick up on exactly what you're saying. So I think there are a lot of developments that we've seen in this area from an engineering perspective. Some of it combines jaw movement and facial movement with being able to pick up on what words you're saying. And then other technology is enabling you to speak at a much lower volume and still be heard and correctly inferred by whichever AI tool you're using. So there's definitely the behavior normalization that's going to be a hurdle. But I think as soon as people, back to this adoption curve thinking, as soon as people start to see the benefits and it becomes as normal as taking a call or a meeting in an open office at a desk setup, it will lose the stigma of, are you talking to a person or are you talking to AI? Definitely something, like I said, anecdotally, I feel firsthand when I go into the office and do it. But I'm trying to set the example and hope that more of my colleagues follow when I'm in the office as we normalize this type of behavior. And then I think the last point just from this slide is on training. So it's back to this point on being clear on where voice AI wins. And this is really, obviously, there are environments like being on the go. I think, some of your best ideas don't always come to you when you're at your desk. And I prefer to sort of be heads up and not in front of a screen if I'm out on a walk or if I'm driving. And so being able to sort of simply say an idea out loud or co-think and spar or brainstorm on an idea while you're on the move is an obvious use case. But I think it's on these tasks where you're able to talk 4 times quicker than you're able to type. And often, particularly at the start of a project, or if you're trying to brainstorm or kick an idea off, or just kind of explain something that's highly technical to someone that takes a lot of typing and is easier just to sort of quickly do a download on. This is where voice will really start to shine when it comes to interaction with AI. So I won't go into them in detail, but we've got, and I can happily share this deck with everybody afterwards, sort of a deep dive into these 4 quadrants and the ways in which we suggest users then tackle them in the future. But ultimately, we've got several more studies this year that we're planning to keep tracking not only voice AI adoption and usage, but also the use cases and the impacts on workforces as they start shifting this entire operating system change that we're seeing, where again, it's no longer a mouse and a keyboard, but we're going to see a lot more voice interaction. And I think combined with our advanced science and R&D units, understanding this with research with partners outside of Jabra is really important for us. And how we design offices, how we design meeting spaces, and how we design the technology that goes into them in this capture layer, be it with voice or video, for making sure that not just people can understand each other, but that AI can understand every input. The obvious sort of anecdote that I can give right now is if you think about personal workspaces, right now we're all able on this call to be seen and heard. We've got some form of a mic pickup and some form of a video feed. But when it comes to return to office and the office spaces we have, there are so many black holes in offices where they're not equipped with the right video and audio. And if you start to get AI embedded into every single application that you're using and able to accelerate a lot of the work you're doing because it has access to all of this information, all of the outcomes of meetings that you have, and then you have these black holes of information. That's going to really potentially bottleneck the potential effectiveness of these tools that are just going to become more and more ubiquitous and ever present across all of the applications that we're all using already day to day. So hopefully in the last 25, 30
Yeah,
minutes.
I am returning a call
Oh, shoot.
from the PT
Yes,
department.
oh, shit.
They
Denise, what
just
did you
called and
just
left a
do?
message, and it only recorded half, so I'm not sure
Hold on one second. I'm so
what the
sorry.
question is or whatever. Can you
Come
connect me?
on, come on, come on. I can't even mute it. Hey, Denise.
Mm-hmm. Denise Monroe.
Yeah, Denise, you got to mute. She's she's a fellow. She's okay. There we go. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just wrapping up, Steve. It was nice to get a slice into Denise's call, but I was just saying I hope that there's something valuable from this takeaway. I think especially as we've got two AI projects we're kicking off at the moment in terms of our next pieces of research. So if there's anything you're particularly keen to find out about, I'm deep in the design stages with the team, and I would love to be able to come back to you later this year with some insights that maybe you've helped shape as well. So
Well,
thank you for the
why don't you share some of that, Paul, whatever you can share. I think it would be very interesting for us to hear where you're, putting your money at, so to speak. Because that's to me, if you're putting money into that area, it's something that we need as consultants and analysts, to uh keep track of, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. I can share. I mean, these are multiple projects over with the intent to survey sort of thousands of different knowledge working cohorts. But I can
Hmm.
share sort of a summary of the areas that we're investigating from a research
Hmm.
perspective, and then
Sure.
if there's any inputs from this group into what would be particularly interesting to find out, I'd love to
Mm,
incorporate those.
sure.
I see an interesting comment from well, Kevin. You mentioned a follow-up on, do you see silent speech interfaces becoming part of the Jabra roadmap? If so, when do these devices become common? By silent speech interface, do you mean sort of being able to almost mouth something and have bone conduction, or oh, I can't hear you. Can't hear you, Kevin.
You were off mute if you want.
I could see you saying, I don't know why. That's as good as my lip reading can get.
Well,
In
Scott
terms
Murphy
of
also has a question there, but no, finish your thought, Paul. Go ahead,
I
please.
was just going to say, in terms of the sort of silent speech interfaces, I think, uh, as mentioned, we're sort of partnering with software startups and in a lot of discussions from an R&D perspective on uh, how much you can infer from as little input or signal as possible, essentially. I think we
Hmm.
benefit there from sort of the miniaturization expertise within our hearing aid division and having that depth of knowledge on being able to both deliver audio but also pick up on a minimal amount of speech when it
Hmm.
comes to a specific product and a roadmap that we might release with that regard or with regards to that. I don't think I can say too much on that, but last week I was on a noisy at least show floor in Barcelona at ISE, and I was demoing Whisper at the booth with about 300 people behind me and at least 120 decibels of noise, and talking softer than I am right now on this call, sort of more of like a silent, quiet conversational tone. And every
Wow.
single word was being picked up absolutely flawlessly, despite all of the background noise. So,
Wow.
I mean, we have, as an easy example, trained this headset on 60 million different sentences to be able to pick up on when I'm saying versus when my dog's barking or when the
Hmm.
doorbell's ringing or when I'm in a noisy train station or coffee shop environment. And I think to your question on silent speech interfaces, that is sort of the ultimate goal that we would be working towards, whether that was through bone conduction and kind of jaw signal reading and a combination of very clever machine learning and deep neural network technology that gave us sort of the on-device processing, or whatever else our R&D wizards are dreaming up, I can't say. But I think the more that we're able to deliver a clean signal to whatever AI you're using, where it can understand exactly what a user is wanting and exactly what's being said, the better the AI will be able to perform. So being that capture layer, not just for us to have a clear call, but for all of the action and input and summaries and intelligence that is being fed into any AI ecosystem is really important for us moving forward.
And then JP's got a quick question. JP?
Yeah, I was just curious, if you don't mind, are you speaking to what is it, the Evolve 2 headphone?
It's an Evolve 3. Yeah.
Evolve 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your latest and greatest. The reason why I'm asking is I had a client reach out and they weren't happy with one of your competitors' products, which is rated as fairly good, but they're interested in what are our alternative options. So I'm just curious to know, what's the latest and greatest that we could at least compare against, and kick the tires and see if it's going to improve their world. So Evolve 3 is the
Yeah,
one.
I mean, this was a show floor or some type of big conference is really the best environment to test it in, because you get naturally just an incredibly loud environment. And it's the first headset that we've engineered without a boom arm. So it's actually got a better speech isolation and voice pickup than the headsets that we had with boom arms, from the perspective of, again, trained on 60 million sentences to be able to pick up when I'm talking. And we did this demo week before last at ISE, where we had a Teams call running in real time, and one participant was in a soundproof booth and the other participant was out on the show floor. And we had Jabra staff members on the booth coming in and shouting or having conversations as loud as they possibly could next to whoever was sort of in the call. And some of the reactions we got were just kind of the proof is in the pudding. But people are really impressed with the capabilities of this one.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So Scott Murphy had a couple of comments and thoughts. Scott, you want to share one or two of your thoughts there with Paul?
I'm trying to keep up with the chat.
I know. This chat's very intense today. This is great.
Yeah, sure. So I guess one of the comments I had was that I think there's a gap here. It's not that the voice won't catch up here and have the right capabilities, but I think that AI is still at a point where you need to give it very well thought out prompts to get the results you're really looking for. And until it breaks that barrier where it can be more intuitive about what you're actually looking for, and you can give it a less structured prompt, I think that's when voice will really kick in and be beneficial, because you tend to talk, as I am right now, in a little less structured manner than you do when you give it prompts. And I find if I give it at least even a little bit unstructured prompt, I'll get a whole lot of garbage back. And it's using multiple different AI interfaces.
So this, I completely agree with you. I think one of the things is there's very little deep verticalized knowledge, like in-depth knowledge that any AI model has of a specific workflow or industry or individual. And that as that intelligence grows around, whether it's just the specialism, and it could be a specialism on who the person is dealing with or it could be a specialism on the company that it's dealing with, or the sort of expertise, say like legal or financial know-how, that will get a lot of value from it. But to your point on sort of the voice prompting and a lot of unnecessary or extra pieces of fluff sometimes coming in with those prompts because we're just sort of saying things as we're thinking them. This is where, and again, no affiliation to Jabra, but I would encourage you to try Whisperflow, because I use it every day as a tool, and it essentially cleans up all of the speed bumps that you have in doing speech to text by thinking out loud. And so if, for example, you're wanting to write an email and you're doing speech to text, and you change the meeting time, or you change some of the action items, or who should be doing something, or who it should be sent to, what you get is the final train of thought that you had without all of the kind of bus stops that it took along the way as you were figuring that out, if that makes sense. So completely agree with your assessment of where intelligence is at today, but think that there are some tools out there already that are helping with that, and it won't be long before that verticalized knowledge starts to accelerate the value we get from these types of tools.
Fantastic.
And I guess the other comment was just to layer on to that is that my experience has been that accessibility features made for people with physical or other challenges are often things that we see funneling into the general availability, and people start using more generally because it basically gets created, tested with people for people with limitations, and then it becomes the next generation technology for the general population. So that's just my experience in the past, and I have a good friend that works as the senior director of accessibility at Microsoft, and that's his experience as well.
And I think I completely agree. And I was having a conversation with the journalist last week around accessibility features with these types of tools. But the best, most recent example I can think of is from our hearing aid division, where Australia now has legislation on new buildings that have to have Auracast technology installed in all of them. And I think, again, as more governments or organizations, when it comes to office spaces, start to mandate these types of technologies, become standardized for accessibility reasons, it'll only help drive the overall acceleration of them. So it's great to see whether it's governments or organizations prioritizing accessibility needs to better enable features that might have a broader benefit, but are certainly most helping people with any accessibility challenges or requirements.
Here, I just have a quick point to add. I'm retired from consulting, but I got roped into doing a little bit of volunteer. When I see 911 organizations looking at intelligent headsets, and they have staff they want to keep on staff that have hearing challenges, then I go, well, if those conservative organizations are looking at this stuff, I see it's closer to being more mainstream. And this is the first time that I've in my career seen very conservative organizations really looking at more advanced voice-enabled capabilities, but they still have to be able to record and transcribe and everything to their enterprise communication systems, right? So that's the difference than you using it for yourself personally.
And I think to your point, Roberta, as well, like the 911 is a great example of where agents could provide, shave seconds off of queries if someone can quickly ask a voice agent for support instead of having to rely on. I'm sure you've got some of the fastest fingers in 911 operating centers for people who have to type. But again, where sort of a voice use case is just such an intuitive and obvious solution for that specific need. So, yeah, and then again, the point that you made on data logs and being able to capture all of that and store it. In case you couldn't tell from the last 45 minutes, I could go on about the benefits all day, but I also love being able to see where the technology is going across all of these different potential functions and features.
So a stupid question or a simple question. How does that become a differentiator, this trend for Jabra?
I think we're working with all of our partners. So whether it's Microsoft or Zoom or Google or any of our alliance partners, on how do we engineer our products from day zero when they're just an item on a roadmap to integrate as seamlessly as possible for where those software partners are engineering their technology. So it's having an in-depth understanding of what types of features and capabilities all of our software partners are thinking about, so that we can make sure that the hardware features that we're engineering are built with those features in mind, rather than us arriving at a different destination 3 years from now when we release a new product to what the Microsofts of the world are doing with, say, Copilot. And then I think at the same time, it comes down to that capture layer. So cybersecurity and AI are probably two of the biggest enterprise spends at the moment. And with cybersecurity, there's this huge need to standardize all of the technology that you use from a vulnerability and protection point of view. So I think standardization and security and manageability of those devices remotely are huge features that are always front and center for us. And then when it comes to AI in general, there's how accurate is that capture layer, whether it's voice pickup or something in a meeting room, and how much does it accelerate the overall adoption of these tools? So will I use Copilot more if I'm able to talk to it rather than just typing to it? Personally, yes. Our belief from the research we're doing is that the same will apply to organizations. So I think there are a few different ways in which we have nerded out over the last 150 years on how to enhance communication, but it's always been people-to-people communication and studying all of those signals. And I think communication is trust is biological. It's a series of signals. But when that becomes digital, it becomes an engineering problem. So I was speaking to one of our engineers a few weeks ago, and he was saying we've got 150 milliseconds before our brains start to pick up on a latency issue. The sound's coming out a little bit delayed from what my video feed is doing, and then all of a sudden my cognitive load is going up. So how do we engineer something to make sure that people can always understand one another, but then now more than ever that AI can understand all of the signals that people have. So it's sort of no longer people to people, but people to machine as well, if you will.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, hey, we're at the top of the hour. Paul, I didn't think that we'd have enough time for Q&A, but we got plenty of Q&A today. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and if we don't immerse ourselves, we're going to be behind. So go play. That would be the the parting words for the day. Go play, as Kevin was sharing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. Okay, and we will see everybody in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for the time. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.